You don't exist. Take a perk and a talk of that shit. Money swallowed like sis. Did it perfect in the kid. Got a billion who sang on my head. Look at better put on the road I just spent. I know we got $1 million. The devil that shit ain't not cheaper again.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to MangaMuse. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the second part of What If Deku Meets JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Special note, this fanfic is written and a masterpiece of Sentinel Prime on FANFICTIONnet. Do check and support the author too. Now smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. What is this? It's like a city. They have more than one of these on the school grounds. UA's amazing. Those were the voices of the students who were about to take the exam. They were marveling at the size of the battleground they were about to enter. Izuku was still shaking a bit while Adrian was making sure his workout clothes were comfortable. He was dressed in a white t-shirt and black shorts. He had been working out when he and Haru weren't watching Izuku while he trained, so he had muscles to show. Looking to Izuku, he noticed him shaking. "What's wrong?" he asked, walking up to him. "Mock battles." Izuku answered while looking around. He was wearing the light blue tracksuit he wore while training under All Might. How can everyone be so confident? Aren't they nervous? They even have equipment to go with their quirks. Dude, I bet you they're all nervous. They just don't want to show it. Good point. Izuku then noticed a familiar hairstyle to a certain someone. Oh, it's the person I met at the school gates. The nice person. Who? Adrian then looked in the same direction as Izuku and smiled. Oh. The girl who helped you. Izuku just nodded in response. He then felt a push from Adrian. Be the gentleman and go thank her. He stated, also, encourage her. She looks nervous as well. Sure. Izuku answered while stuttering and started walking towards the girl. Adrian watched with pride as Izuku slowly walked towards the girl. Hearing movement behind him, he looked to see the same examinee who called out to Izuku rapidly walking towards him. He then looked to see that his intended target was Izuku. Acting fast, he put out his arm, making the examinee stop in his tracks. "What are you doing?" he exclaimed. "That girl appears to be trying to focus and your friend is attempting to interfere." "How dense are you, Clark Kent?" Adrian asked while turning to him. She helped him when he almost fell on his face at the entrance of the school, so he's just going over there to thank and encourage her. The examinee then looked to see them both calmly talking. Izuku looked a bit nervous but still smiled while the girl was smiling. He then looked back at Adrian. "I see." He said, "I apologize for the misunderstanding. I guess I'm so stressed I began to act rashly instead of thinking it through. Thank you for stopping me." "You're welcome, Clark Kent." Adrian replied. "By the way, who is Clark Kent?" A vein appeared on top of Adrian's head and his left eye twitched in annoyance with a scowl to complete the features. A few minutes earlier. Izuku slowly walked up to where the girl was and waited a few seconds before getting her attention. He gently tapped her on the shoulder, making her look towards him. "Oh, it's you," she said with surprise. "I just wanted to thank you for helping me back at the entrance," he stuttered, and also to wish you good luck on the EE exam." "Oh. Thanks." She replied, smiling in the process, then held out her hand to him. "My name is Achiko. Achiko Uraraka. I izukumidoriya." He replied while shaking her hand. "I just shook hands with a girl." Izuku screamed in his mind. Achiko then let go and looked at Izuku's face. "It's nice to meet you, properly," she said, still smiling. "What's your quirk, by the way?" "Well, Before Izuku could come up with an excuse, a shout was heard catching everyone's attention. "You uncultured swine," the familiar voice of Adrian yelled. Everyone looked to see him giving the glass-wearing examinee a scowl that would even make Katsuki cower in fear. "Ah oh." Izuku said, then turned to Achiko, "Excuse me, I'll be right back." He then ran to Adrian's side. "How could you not know?" Adrian exclaimed, making the examinee take a step back in fear. "Why, I ought to." "Adrian, calm down." Izuku commanded, placing his hands on Adrian's shoulders. "Relax. Deep breaths. Deep breaths. Breathe in and out. In and out. In and out." Adrian didn't listen at first, but he slowly did what Izuku said. He breathed in and out. In and out. In and out. He did this about 6 times before taking 3 steps away from the examinee. He then gently removed Izuku's hands from his shoulders and brushed his hair back. "It's okay. I'm fine. I'm cool. I'm fine," Adrian assured Izuku. "I'm sorry about that." Izuku apologized to the examinee. "What exactly happened?" "Well, he stopped me from making myself look like a fool. I apologized and then he called me Clark Kent to who I don't." He then stopped and realized what had happened. "Oh. Superman. That's where the name comes from. My apologies again for not realizing it sooner." Adrian is a big comic book fan. Whenever who is into heroes doesn't know something, he loses his temper. Reminder for the future, don't ever say anything bad about comic book heroes. You will be on the receiving end of his wrath. Duly noted. "Okay, start." The voice of present Mike exclaimed, getting the examinee's attention. "What's wrong? There are no countdowns in real fights. Run, run. The die has been cast, you know." "Oh snap." Adrian exclaimed, then turned to his friend. "Come on, Izuku." Izuku nodded his head in response and charged in the mock city right behind Adrian. The other students followed as well, going in as fast as possible. While running, Izuku was mentally telling himself to keep calm. Lesson number 1: Stay calm in any situation. He reminded himself, "I can do this. I have both Jotaro senseis and All Might's training with me." Flashback. Dagoba Municipal Beach Park. Izuku looked like he was about to throw up as he swallowed the hair. Haru was trying his best to look settled, but he was failing. Disgusted was written all over his face. Adrian actually did hurl at seeing the whole thing. Luckily, there was a trash can nearby. "Really?" Haru asked. "You can look a villain in the face, but you puke at the sight of hair." "It's not the hair that's the problem," Adrian replied after puking a second time. "It's the fact that it's being swallowed that makes me sick." "All right." All Might exclaimed to Izuku, "You swallowed the hair, right?" "Yeah, but..." Izuku finally said after composing himself and looked down at his hands, "I don't feel any different, though." "Of course not." All Might replied after a small laugh. "What do you think the stomach does?" "Well, you'll feel something in 2 or 3 hours. I'm so nervous, I need to hurry back, take a shower, and eat breakfast." "Haru, Adrian, you should do the same." "Got it." Both friends replied as they grabbed their bags. The 3 of them were about to leave when All Might called for Izuku. "You have become a proper vessel," he stated, "but it was one that was made in a hurry. You didn't even get to take it for a test drive. Prepare yourself for the physical repercussions it'll have on your body." "Huh?" Izuku replied in a pulled manner. "I see." Haru thought to himself, Izuku may now be a proper vessel, but his body isn't used to having all that power. I don't want to think about what would happen if he uses one for all at 100%. Can he even handle 5%? "I don't have time to explain in detail," All Might continued, "so I'll just tell you this. When you use my quirk, one for all, squeeze your buttocks and yell this inside your heart. The flashback was interrupted when a building was broken through. Izuku stopped in his tracks and saw a faux villain. On one of its arms was the number 1. 1 point. Izuku exclaimed. Target acquired. The faux villain said, "I'll kill you." The villain then charged at Izuku at full speed. Izuku was having a strong time trying to get a grip. He couldn't even remember how All Might had told him to activate One for All. Luckily, he didn't need to use it. He had another weapon at his disposal. Agile Emerald, he shouted, and his stand appeared right in front of him. Smash, it shouted and punched the robot head-on. The machine fell to the ground with a hole in its chest. Izuku then took a few calming breaths and then continued to run with Agile Emerald floating behind him. Looking around, he noticed that Adrian was no longer with him. He must have decided to go his own way. He thought, that means I'm on my own. Izuku then remembered something that his old sensei, Jotaro Kujo, had taught him. Flashback. 9 years ago. Izuku laid on the ground, beaten and bruised. It has been a year into his training and he quickly learned that Jotaro doesn't slack off. He made sure that Izuku understood a few things before he decided to teach him to use his stand in combat. He taught him how to summon his stand on command and had him do household chores with it. Izuku didn't mind, though, since he was learning how to control his stand. Back to now, Izuku tried to get up but was having trouble. He then saw Jotaro walk up to him, kneel down on one knee and hold out his hand to him. Izuku gladly took it only for Star Platinum to punch him in the face, sending him lying on the ground, holding a red nose. Remember. Jotaro said while standing back up, your enemy is not going to play fair. Jotaro-sensei. Izuku called while standing up, what will I do if I'm on a team and I get separated? Where did this come from? I was watching the news and a team of heroes were stopping a villain. The villain then got all the heroes separated and took them down, one by one. Thankfully, he was stopped when All Might showed up and took him down. Lazy bum. Always showing up when things are going downhill. Jotaro said under his breath, then looked to Izuku. So, what are you saying? If I get on a team, Izuku explained, and I get separated from my teammates, what should I do when the villain comes after me? Yar days. That's simple. Fight back. That's the problem with most of the heroes today. Even if they have the villain in a secluded area and they're all alone, they still hold back. When you have a chance to take an enemy down and you have the power to back it up, then you take that chance. That will be your challenge today. To continue fighting me with everything you have until you can't go on any longer. Izuku nodded with a determined look, summoned Agile Emerald and charged at his sensei. Flashback end. If I have the enemies all to myself and I'm alone, Izuku thought to himself as two more robots, one a 2-pointer and the other a 3, charged at him. Then I don't need to hold back. Smash, his stand shouted and with one punch destroyed both robots and a building in the process. Izuku then looked around to see 5 more robots coming after him. All right. Izuku said with confidence, let's do this. In a hidden observation room, a huge number of pro heroes watched as the examinees took the exam. There were multiple screens, one for each student. At the front row seats, Toshinori Yagi sat watching next to a short well-dressed creature that looked like a mix between a dog, a mouse and a bear. In this practical exam, the dog-mouse-bear said, the examinees have been not informed of the number of villains or their locations. They have a limited amount of time in a vast area. They have to draw the villains out from their information gathering ability to understand the situation before anyone else. Mobility that can be used in many different circumstances. Discernment to be able to stay calm in any situation. And pure combat ability. These basic abilities needed to keep peace in the streets are turned into points in this test. Doesn't this year's group look promising? A woman asked. Hold it. A man said and pointed to the screens that showed Izuku, Haru and Adrian, how is it that these three have the same quirk? Because they don't. Toshinori answered and pressed a button. Their screens then changed to a light red, and to everyone's surprise, they saw other figures fighting for them. Well, I'll be. The woman said, it looks like we have ourselves a few stand users this year. Interesting. The dog mouse bear added, this is the first time that stand users have decided to come to UA. There is no rule against a stand user joining, so they just have to acquire enough points to get accepted. Back to the other comment of promising group, Toshinori said, we can't know for sure yet. Their true test is still to come. He then pressed a big red button. Izuku had just taken down 9 more bots after the other 19 when he felt the ground shake. He then noticed some dust flying around the street and thought another villain had decided to come out of hiding. He wasn't wrong, but not what he was expecting. He saw a robot that was as tall as the original 1954 Godzilla. That's the 4th villain. He screamed in his mind, isn't it a little too big? The robot then directed a punch to the where he was standing. Out of instinct, Agile Emerald appeared and blocked the punch before it could hit Izuku. Dust flew everywhere and Izuku flew with it. He landed on his buns thankfully, so he wasn't hurt. An overwhelming threat. Toshinori continued, how people act after they've seen this shows their true nature. All the other examinees ran for their lives while Izuku still looked at the robot in both amazement and fear. Feeling a hand on his shoulder, he looked to see Adrian with a terrified look on his face. What are you doing? He exclaimed while pulling Izuku to his feet, we have to run. All right. Izuku replied after composing himself and ran right next to Adrian. Less than 2 minutes left. Present Mike reminded them. Bad time to remind us. Adrian yelled back without looking and continued to run with his green-haired friend right beside him. Izuku then heard a sound that made him stop in his tracks. Turning around, he saw the nice girl who helped him, Ochiko Uraraka, on the ground trying to get up but failing. The robot was getting closer to where she was. Seeing her in that state, reminded of Izuku to when he saw Katsuki captured by the sludge villain. It made him feel like he had to do something, anything to save him. He then remembered something else that his sensei, Jotaro, had told him. Flashback. 11 years ago. The day had finally come for Izuku to start his training with Jotaro Kujo. They both went to an abandoned part of the city where no one could watch them. Izuku was beaming with excitement while walking behind Jotaro. He was finally going to learn how to use his stand. When they got to the location, Jotaro stopped in his tracks. Izuku accidentally walked into him and fell on his buns. Standing up, he noticed that Jotaro wasn't moving. What's wrong, Mr. Kujo? He asked. Jotaro then turned to look at Izuku. Izuku. Midoriya, he said, why do you want to become a hero? Why do I want to become a hero? Yar days. Most of the people that become heroes are only in it for the glory and money. From what I've seen, they don't care about the people, they only care about themselves. The only exception is All Might. I want to know why you want to become one. That's easy. Izuku answered with a smile, I want to be able to save people, like All Might. He's always swooping with a smile on his face, making everyone feel safe. I want to be like that. Saving people while smiling and making them feel safe. That's why I want to become a hero. Kujo wanted to say the kid was lying, but all he could see was truth in Izuku's words. Surprising himself, he smiled. Then make me a promise, kid. He said, getting Izuku's attention. Promise me that no matter what happens, if it's bullying, hateful people or even villains, you'll always keep your drive to be a hero. Saving lives with a smile on your face, even at the cost of your own life. Can you do that for me? Izuku thought about what he said. A promise to hold on to his reason for becoming a hero. To save lives with a smile, no matter the cost. Even All Might rushes into danger without thinking of his own safety. He's willing to die trying to save people in danger. He looked back up to Jotaro and gave him a big smile, showing his teeth in the process while nodding. That almost made the man laugh. Okay. He said, let's get started on your training. Yes sir, Mr. Kujo. Izuku replied. You're my student now. You'll address me as, Jotaro-sensei. Got it, Jotaro-sensei. Flashback end. I promised him I would never forget why I wanted to become a hero, Izuku thought to himself, turning towards where Ochako was and started to run in that direction, and I'm going to keep that promise. Izuku. What are you doing? Adrian shouted, seeing that his friend was running towards the robot instead of away from it. There is absolutely no merit in taking on the faux villain. Toshinori said as he and the other heroes watched the screen, but that creates the opportunity for it to shine brightly. Adrian watched as his friend ran towards the villain with shock. It turned to horror when he saw Agile Emerald vanish instead of staying ready. He was about to rush in to help his friend when the impossible happened. He saw Izuku jump higher than any normal human should. What the, was all he could say. The girl, Ochako, watched in surprise as well from seeing Izuku pull off a feat like that. She was about to be even more surprised for what came next. And rise to the surface. In the air, Izuku wasn't really paying too attention to what was going on around him. His sole focus was to destroy the robot before Ochako got any more hurt. Raising his right fist, he clenched it and reeled it back. Unbeknownst to him, red lines started to appear on his arm and his entire right sleeve ripped off. In that moment, he remembered when All Might told him how to activate his quirk. Squeeze your buttocks, and yell this inside your heart. Smash! Izuku screamed in his mind and punched the zero-pointer head-on in the face. The robot then started to fall back and explode at the same time. The other examinees watched in awe as a single unknown examinee destroyed the zero-pointer with just a single punch. Adrian had a happy smile on his face from seeing that display of power. He did it. He exclaimed to himself, he used one for all. That's right. Toshinori said at watching that display of power and bravery, it rises to the surface. The most important qualification of a hero. The spirit of self-sacrifice. 1 minute left. Present Mike shouted, bringing Izuku out of his daze. Looking down he noticed that he was very high up in the air. He started to panic though when he noticed that he was falling. Wait, this is All Might's power. He thought to himself, I'm able to jump this high now. Landing should be a piece of cake. Izuku tried to right himself, but for some reason, his legs wouldn't obey him. Looking up, he saw that his legs weren't stiff, like they should be. They were flailing around, like a rag doll's legs. The same was for his right arm, flailing around and bruised. Only one conclusion came to Izuku's mind. His right arm and both of his legs were broken. He didn't understand why until he remembered something that All Might said. You have become a proper vessel, but it was one that was made in a hurry. Prepare yourself for the physical repercussions it'll have on your body. Oh yeah. I'm such an idiot. He thought to himself, a mere 10 months was just barely enough time. I can just barely hold this borrowed power. I was being conceited for a second. I've only been given the right to stand at the start line. Wait, stand. That's it. Agile Emerald. Izuku shouted and his stand appeared. Agile Emerald then gently wrapped his left arm around Izuku and dug his right arm into the nearest building. The building was getting holes in it, but Izuku's descent was slowing down. 3 inches before his broken legs could hit the ground, he and Agile Emerald came to a complete stop. Izuku's stand gently placed him on the ground, with his back leaning against the building. Agile Emerald then vanished at seeing his work was done. Izuku! Adrian shouted as he ran to his friend. Ochako followed close behind him, though she was having some trouble. Her right ankle was sprained so she couldn't run as fast. Adrian got to Izuku first and she caught up a few seconds later. Izuku. Are you okay? The blonde asked in a scared manner. Well, both my legs are broken and so is my right arm. Izuku answered in a calm tone, other than that, I'll live. Good to know. Out of the blue, Adrian backhanded Izuku on his left cheek, surprising Ochako. What's wrong with you? Are you trying to die? What did you want me to do? Izuku shouted back, abandon Uraraka and let her get hurt. Who's Uraraka? I'm Uraraka. Ochako Uraraka. The said girl answered, getting both boys' attention. She slowly made her way to Izuku and knelt in front of him. Are you okay? She asked him while lightly touching his right arm. Seeing him hiss in pain, she quickly pulled her hand back. I was going to ask you the same question. Izuku asked with a weak smile. Why do I bother? Adrian muttered with some amusement in his voice. He was still mad at Izuku for pulling a stunt like that, but he was just glad his friend was alright, mostly. Yeah, I'm okay. Ochako answered with uncertainty. That's good to know. Izuku replied and lost consciousness just as Present Mike shouted, time's up. Other students began to gather around where Izuku was. What was that guy? He suddenly jumped at the obstacle. He seemed to have a reinforcement-type quirk, but that was unusual. Anyway, there's no mistaking he's an amazing guy. They're missing the point. The glasses-wearing examinee thought to himself, didn't they see? He jumped out to save that girl. He was aware of the remaining time, his own safety, and the points he needed to pass, and even so, he did not hesitate at all. He then thought back to when the faux villain showed up. All he and the other examinees did was run for their lives, away from the danger. If we had not been in an exam, of course, I would have done the same. Wait. Exam. Of course. Wait a minute. The examinee was pulled from his thoughts when he heard a voice. Turning around he saw a short woman looked about 60 going on 70, in a medical outfit walking towards them. With a cane that looked like a syringe. Okay, good work. She said, good work, good work. Here you go. Have some gummies. Eat some gummies. She started to hand out gummy bears to each of the examinees. They didn't understand why until one of them spoke up. That mademoiselle is the backbone of UA, he said with a French accent. The elderly lady then walked up to where Izuku was. Oh dear, she said, you were hurt this much by your own quirk. It's as if his body is not used to his quirk yet. She thought to herself before doing something everyone did not expect. She bent down and kissed Izuku on his forehead. What was that? One of the examinees asked. UA High's licensed school nurse. The examinee with the French accent answered, the youthful heroine, recovery girl. Her quirk is the superactivation of healing ability. UA can only go through with such a reckless exam because of her. As he was explaining, everyone watched as Izuku was completely healed. Adrian then turned to recovery girl. Thanks for healing my friend. He said, last thing I need is for his mom to come after me because I didn't keep him from getting severely injured. You're welcome, young man. The heroine answered, then turned to the other examinees, let's finish this quickly. Is anyone else injured? I see. The glasses-wearing examinee continued to think, if this exam is set up like that, then he's. If only he had gotten one more point. Adrian said to himself, looking at Izuku with a sad look on his face. Unbeknownst to him, someone heard what he had said. 1 week later. Izuku. Inko called out to her son. Izuku was just staring at his fish in deep thought. He hadn't touched a bit of his food. Izuku. Izuku. Third time was the charm as Izuku was pulled from his thoughts and looked at his mom who had a worried expression on her face. Hey, are you all right? She asked, you just kept staring at your fish. Oh. Sorry mom. I was just thinking about something. Izuku replied and started to eat his food. After dinner and dishes, Izuku sat on the couch doing some of his fist exercises. He barely passed the written exam with a small score. During the practical exam, though, he had lost count of his points, so he didn't know if he had passed or not. The results should arrive today or tomorrow, right? Inko asked as she was putting away books with her quirk. Yeah, Mom. Izuku replied. Geez, I think it's amazing that you even applied at UA. Well, Jotaro-sensei said I should learn from the best. That's right, he did. Izuku hadn't even told his mother about All Might or his quirk. He had kept that secret so he could continue being the symbol of peace. He promised not to tell anyone, not even his family. Only Haru and Adrian knew about that secret. He texted his friends, asking if they got accepted but no reply. They were probably still waiting for their answer as well. Izuku then decided to lift weights while still in thought. Jotaro-sensei, he thought, I wish you were here. I wish you could have seen me. How far the training you put me through helped in the long run. I wish you were. Izuku's thoughts were interrupted when he heard the door open. He looked to see his mom clumsily trying to get in by crawling but was having trouble from shaking with both shock and excitement. Izu. Izuku, she stuttered, finally getting in and showing him an envelope with UA's signature on it. It's here. It came. It's here. Izuku grabbed the letter, said a quick thank you to his mom and rushed to his room. Closing his door, he sat at his desk and opened the letter. There was a small circular object inside of it. Izuku gently placed on his desk and a bright light appeared from the center. It then projected a video with All Might on it. I am here as a projection, he boomed while dressed in nice business clothes, taking Izuku by surprise. All Might? Izuku exclaimed, wait, this is from UA, right? What? I had to do some paperwork that took some time, so I couldn't contact you. I'm sorry. Actually, I came to this town to work at UA. Izuku was once again caught by surprise. All Might is working at UA, he asked out loud. All Might was about to continue speaking when a hand appeared, making look off screen. What is it? He asked, wrap it up. But there is something I must talk to him about, it's going to push everything else back. All right. Okay. All Might then looked back at the screen. You passed the written exam, but sadly you missed a few points on the practical exam. That gives you a total of 78 points, meaning you didn't pass. Izuku slammed his fist on the table out of frustration from hearing the news. He missed 1 point from getting into UA. No. I was so close. He said to himself while looking down. If that was all there was to it. That caused Izuku to look back up at the screen. I am an entertainer, as well. First, take a look at this video. A TV in the projection turned on, showing a familiar face on it. Excuse me, she said. Uraraka. Izuku exclaimed. She came to negotiate directly in person after the exam. All Might explained, negotiate what? Keep watching to find out. The video then continued to play. The person with curly hair and freckles. She continued, his name is Izukumidoriya. Do you know who I'm talking about? Kind of plain looking, is it possible for me to give him some of my points? What did she say? Izuku thought to himself. I heard his friend say, if only he had gotten 1 more point. So, I guessed that he was 1 point short from being accepted. He saved me. Please. Please. Please, the video paused. In addition to now having a quirk, All Might said, your actions spurred other to act. The entrance exam the other day was not graded only on villain points. The video resumed. Even if you ask to, Present Mike replied to Achiko, you cannot give him your points. Anyway, there's no reason to give him any, female listener. The video ended and the camera focused on All Might. How can a hero course reject people who save others and do the right thing, he stated, call that lip service. Bring it on. This is a job that requires risking one's life to put that lip service into practice. Rescue points. And they're given by a panel of judges. It's the other basic ability we at UA look at. A score panel then showed up showing the total number of points all the examinees got. Izuku was shocked to see that he was in first place. Izukumidoriya, 60 points. That's a total of 158 points. Izuku screamed in his mind. The screen then showed Ochiko's points. And Ochiko Uraraka, 45 points. The screen then switched back to All Might. You both pass. This is too crazy. Izuku said on the verge of tears. Come, young Midoriya. This is your hero academia. Yes sir, the young stand user said while wiping away the tears in his eyes. Mom. Haru. Adrian. Jotaro sensei. I did it. I got in. UA observation room. The cumulative results for the practical exam are out, someone exclaimed. On the screen were the top 10 examinees who got the most points. Izuku Midoriya, villain, 66 rescue, 60. Katsuki Bakugou, villain, 77 rescue, 0. Gyro Kirishima, villain, 39 rescue, 35. Ochiko Uraraka, villain, 28 rescue, 45. Ibara Shiozaki, villain, 36 rescue, 32. Itsuka Kendo, villain, 25 rescue, 40. Tenya Ida, villain, 52 rescue, 9. Tetsu, villain, 49 rescue, 10. Fumikage Tokoyami, villain, 47 rescue, 10. Yosetsu Aways, villain, 50 rescue, 6. I can't believe he got second place with no rescue points. A woman said. Referring to Katsuki Bakugou. The faux villains acquire their targets and draw near them. A man explained, in the second half, as others were slowing down, he used his flashy quirk to keep bringing them close and then counterattacking. It's the result of his toughness. Then there's the first place student with almost an equal number of both villain and rescue points. There have been other examinees who took on the large villain in the past, but it's been a while since I last saw someone blow it away. But to suffer a serious injury from his own attack, it's like he's a young child whose quirk just manifested. It may have something to do with the fact that he is also a stand user. You're probably right. Incredible. A person with both a quirk and a stand. That combination has never been seen before. An unknown person watched in the back as everyone discussed the subject. Dagoba Municipal Beach Park. Toshinori Yagi stood by the edge of the water, watching the waves roll in and out. He put a call for Izuku, Haru, and Adrian to meet him at the beach. He was thinking about watching Izuku use one for all for the first time at the practical exam. He was pulled from his thoughts when he heard footsteps approaching. Turning around, he saw all three boys approach him. All Might. Izuku exclaimed, making Toshinori cough up BLD in surprise. Who's that? He replied, hoping no one heard Izuku. Sadly, a couple at the beach did hear him. All Might? No way. Where? Repeat after me. Toshinori whispered to Izuku, I had the wrong person. Oh, I had the wrong person. Izuku quickly repeated, making sure the couple heard him. Ah, what? I was hoping to see him. It worked. The moment their attention was away from them, Adrian clocked Izuku in the head. Ow! Izuku screamed, Adrian, what was that for? For nearly giving away All Might's secret identity. He answered, seriously, you need to think before you do something. Cut him so slack, Adrian. Haru said, he's not used to calling him by his real name. Argument aside, Toshinori interjected while raising his hand at Izuku, congrats on getting accepted. Thank you very much. Izuku said while giving him a high five. Just so you know, I didn't tell the school about my connection to you. You're the type that would think that's cheating, right? I wasn't one of the judges. Thank you for your concern. Izuku said while bowing. Yep. That's Izuku for you. Haru clarified. But, I was surprised to find out that you were a teacher at UA. So that's why you came here, huh? I mean, your agency is in Roppongi in Minato, Tokyo at dash. Izuku, shut up. Adrian interrupted. Sorry, Adrian. Thank you, young Thompson. Toshinori said, as for me teaching at UA, I couldn't tell anyone before the school announced it. I just happened to be offered a job from UA when I was searching for a successor. I see. Izuku realized, he was originally planning on choosing one of the students. One of the students gifted with an amazing quirk. He looked down at his hands with shock and some sadness. He then felt a hand on his shoulder and looked see Haru with a small smile on his face. He must have come to the same conclusion as well. Izuku, that's in the past. He assured his friend, you were chosen, no one else. Thanks, Haru. Izuku replied then looked back to All Might, my body broke with one kick and one punch of one for all. I can't control it at all. That can't be helped. Toshinori replied, it's like if you asked a person who suddenly grew a tail to do a trick, they wouldn't even be able to control it. Izuku hung his head down in thought, but then snapped back up in realization. Wait, did you know that would happen? He asked Toshinori. Well, there wasn't any time. He answered unsurely, but it turned out all right. It turned out, all might. Are you kidding me? Adrian thought to himself. That was a very poor attempt at a joke. Haru silently agreed. Toshinori then picked up 2 spray cans in one hand. Right now, you're either at 100% or 0. He explained to Izuku, but once you can control it, you'll be able to adjust to what your body can handle. Control? Izuku asked with surprise. The more you train a vessel, the more you'll be able to move the power freely. Like this. Toshinori buffed up into All Might and crushed the cans with little effort. Izuku got a determined look on his face wanting to learn how to control his newfound power. The display of strength, though, once again brought the attention of the couple. Wait, is that All Might? No way. When did he get here? Let's go, young men. All Might exclaimed as he ran. The 3 stand users followed closely behind him. The number 1 hero looked behind him and at Izuku. The flame I passed on to you is still small, he thought, but in the future, it'll be exposed to wind and rain and grow even bigger. And then, I will slowly become weak and disappear, and I will finish my job. Yeah, that's deep. April, the first day of school. Izuku, do you have tissue? Inko asked her son as he packed his bags. Yeah. Izuku replied, dressed in the gray UA school uniform. And your handkerchief? What about your handkerchief? Your hanky. I have it. I'm going to be late. I have to hurry. He was just about to exit the apartment when his mom called out to him, again. Izuku, she cried, getting her son's attention. What is it? He replied in a hurried tone, looking at his mom. He was going to be late on the first day, something he didn't want to be. She was smiling while also on the verge of tears. You're really cool. She said, Jotaro would be so proud of you, as am I. Hearing that made Izuku smile. I'm off, he said while exiting, love you. Love you, too. Inko replied as she watched her son leave. UA High School. Haru and Adrian had met up with Izuku 5 minutes after he left his home. The 3 of them made their way into the school in excited moods. Once they got into the building, though, they were nervous. They couldn't find the right classroom they were assigned to. Class 1A. Izuku said while running through the halls in front of his friends, "This place is too big." "No kidding." Adrian replied, "It will take forever for us to find Class 1A. "Found it," Haru stated and stopped running. Adrian and Izuku came next to him and looked at the sign that had the initials for their class. They were also surprised to see how big the entrance was. "The door's huge," Adrian stated. "Is it for accessibility?" "From what I heard," Haru explained, "the elite chosen from the huge number at the exam come to this class." "Oh no," Izuku remarked, getting both boys' attention. "I just realized that we might be in the same class as Bakugou." "I hope you are wrong," Haru said. "Come on, Izuku," Adrian said while opening the door and looking in. "I'm sure he's in some other class in this school." "Don't put your feet on the desk," the familiar voice of the glasses-wearing examinee exclaimed to one Katsuki Bakugou. "Huh," the said boy replied as if he didn't hear him. "Don't you think that's rude to the UA upperclassmen and the people who made the desk?" "Nope." "What junior high did you go to, you side character?" "I stand corrected," Adrian said as he, Izuku and Haru entered to see this argument taking place. "I attended semi-private academy. My name is Tenya Ida." The student identified himself. "Semi?" Katsuki replied, "So you're an elite, huh? Looks like I'll have fun crushing you." "Crushing? That's cruel. Do you truly aim to be a hero? Don't pay attention to him," Haru called out to Ida, hoping to get on Katsuki's nerves. "He's all bark and no bite." "Who said that?" Katsuki called out, now noticing the three stand users at the door. "Oh. The three losers. It's three musketeers," Adrian exclaimed. "Get it right, porcupine." "What did you say?" "You heard me. Good morning," Tenya said to the three boys while walking towards them. "I am from semi-private academy. My name is—" "I heard." Izuku interrupted while holding out his hand to him. "I'm Izukumidoriya." "It's nice to meet you, Ida." Tenya was surprised at how polite this boy was being to him. He thought wouldn't want anything to do with him, after how he treated him at the exam. With a smile, took Izuku's hand and shook it. "I'm Haru Ryo Watanabe." Haru introduced himself. "I see you've already met Adrian Thompson here." "Yes, I have," Ida replied. "He kept me from making a fool of Midoriya from a misunderstanding. Though, I did incur his anger for not knowing the name of Clark Kent. Either way, I'm glad we could meet under better circumstances." "Same here," Adrian replied with a smile. "Midoriya," Ida said, drawing Izuku's attention, "you realized that there was something more to the practical exam, didn't you?" "I had no idea, I misjudged you. I hate to admit it, but you are better than me." "Sorry. I actually didn't realize anything." Izuku thought in his head, "I'm smart but I'm not that smart. Haru would be the one to figure out the rescue points, not me." "Oh, morning Izuku," exclaimed a cheery voice. Izuku turned around to see Achiko standing right behind him. "You passed, just like President Mike said. She looks good in uniform," Izuku thought as he blushed like crazy. Achiko didn't notice as she kept talking while doing punching motions. "Of course you did. Your punch was amazing. Break. Break. Break." "Oh, well, he stuttered while trying to make sure she didn't see him blushing. "It was thanks to you going to speak directly that I, Huh. How did you know about that?" "Oh, that's because—" Katsuki, who was hearing the whole thing, stopped listening altogether. His thoughts traveled to a small memory. Flashback. Both boys were called to the principal's office of their old school. Izuku was a bit nervous while Katsuki was livid. Learning that Izuku had been accepted, taken first place no less while he was second, made him angry beyond belief. "I can't believe we have 2 students from our school matriculating into UA," the principal said excitedly, "especially you, Midoriya. It's a miracle." After the meeting, he hurried off to tell the good news to his friends. Sadly, he was intercepted by Katsuki, who wanted a word with him. Grabbing him by the shirt, he held him up against the wall in a secluded area at the school. "What dirty tricks did you use to get in, huh?" he asked harshly, "the first student from his high school to go to UA, my future plan has already been torn to pieces. I told you to go somewhere else." He didn't get to say anything else as he felt something impact his stomach. Katsuki tried to react but didn't have time as he was punched in the cheek. It sent him to ground, and before he could get up, he was pulled up and pinned against the wall. Regaining his focus, he planned to blow up whoever dared attack. He was shocked to see that it was Izuku who was pinning him to the wall. He was even more shocked to feel that his hands were restrained. Looking down, he saw just that. His hands were being held together by Izuku's right hand while his left was holding him in place. When the green-haired stand user looked up at him, it was a look Katsuki had never seen before. He had seen plenty of faces on the boy. When he was happy, sad, giddy, embarrassed, or even upset. This one look though, the one Izuku had on right now, this stone-cold scowl, made a chill go down his spine. For once, in his life, Katsuki was actually afraid of Izuku. "Katsuki," Izuku said in a low voice, once again catching him by surprise. He never used his first name when he talked to him. It made him even more afraid than before. "I don't know what happened between us, what caused our friendship to end. I honestly lost interest of learning the truth after 6 years of trying to reach out to you. I gave you your space, and only fought back when you invaded mine. I was never against you wanting to become a hero, and I'm still not. I'm not trying to keep you from becoming one, but know this. I have my own dreams of becoming a hero, and no one, not even you, are going to get in my way. You think you can keep me from that because you think I'm scared of you? Well, guess what? I was done fearing you a long time ago. I respect you because we were once friends. That's why I'm giving you a fair warning. Don't try to keep me from becoming a hero or there will be consequences." Izuku then let go of Katsuki and walked away. The blonde was too shocked to do anything else. He just kept watching him leave until he was out of sight. Flashback end. Katsuki was rubbing his left cheek, the one Izuku had punched him in, as he thought about that day. He once again looked to where Izuku was, still trying to hide his face from Achiko. How dare he defy me? He thought to himself, something's definitely up. He then had the nerve to hit me with his own fists. Who does he think he? That's when he realized something that he totally overlooked. He didn't use his stand. He fought back with his own power. He really isn't afraid of me. Does that mean he'll keep the warning he gave me? I wonder if today's just the entrance ceremony or orientation. Achiko continued to speak. I wonder what our teacher's like. Aren't you nervous? So close. Izuku said under his breath. He looked to Adrian and Haru for help, but they were enjoying watching Izuku fluster in front of a girl. Thankfully, some did interrupt the blushing session. Go somewhere else if you want to play being friends. A tired voice said, causing Izuku, Tenya and Achiko to look to the floor behind her, outside the door. It was a man with black, drowsy eyes, zipped up in a sleeping bag. This is the hero course. The man opened his zipper a bit and pulled out a juice box to drink, emptying it in less than a second. Something's here. All three of them thought at the same time. The man then stood up in the sleeping bag and unzipped it. He then removed himself from it. He looked about 6 feet 2 inches with black hair that reached down to his neck. His attire was a long-sleeved black shirt with similar pants. He had some sort of super long scarf around his neck that covered his shoulders. Okay, it took 8 seconds before you were quiet. He continued to speak, time is limited. You kids are not rational enough. I would like to see him say that to Adrian's face. Haru thought to himself. A teacher? Izuku thought to himself, which means, that person is a pro hero, too. But I've never seen a hero who looked that worn out before. I'm your homeroom teacher, Shota Aizawa. Nice to meet you. Homeroom teacher. Adrian thought, this guy looks like he needs some sleep, not teaching kids through the whole day. It's kind of sudden, Aizawa said as he showed the students a tracksuit, but put this on and go out onto the field. In another part of the school, Toshinori Yagi was sitting down, reading a book on the teacher directory. Since he was now a teacher at UA, he needed to know what to do. The UA system does not follow the beaten path. He thought while reading, depending on the homeroom teacher. Even the first day can be UAPE field. A quirk assignment test. All of the students shouted in surprise. They were now standing outside in the tracksuits. What about the entrance ceremony? Achiko asked, the orientation. If you're going to become a hero, Aizawa answered, you don't have time for such leisurely events. UA's selling point is how unrestricted its school traditions are. That's also how the teachers run their classes. You kids have been doing these since junior high, too, right? Physical fitness tests where you weren't allowed to use your quirks. The country still uses averages taken from results from students not using their quirks. It's not rational. Well, the Ministry of Education is procrastinating. Aizawa then looked to Izuku. Bakugou, he said, you finished in the top 10 of the practical exam. Second place, right? Katsuki just nodded his head, with an angry look at being reminded he came in second. In junior high, what was your best result for the softball throw? 67 meters. He answered. Then, try doing it with your quirk. Aizawa threw him a softball and motioned for him to stand in the circle. You can do whatever you want as long as you stay in the circle. Hurry up, give it all you've got. Then, well. Katsuki said while stretching, I'll add a blast to the pitch. Die, he shouted with a crazed look as he threw the ball. An explosion occurred making the ball fly even further. Izuku's, Haru's and Adrian's sweat dropped at seeing and hearing the display. Die. Really? They thought at the same time. Know your own maximum first. Aizawa said as he watched the ball fly and fall to the ground. That is the most rational way to form the foundation of a hero. He then showed his phone to the students. The number was 705.2 meters. They all gasped in surprise at what Katsuki just did. The only ones who weren't surprised were Izuku, Haru, and Adrian. 705 meters. Seriously, one of the students said, and then more began to talk. What's this? It looks fun. We can use our quirks as much as we want. As expected from the hero course. It looks fun, huh? Aizawa asked in a neutral tone, making the students quiet. You have 3 years to become a hero. Will you have an attitude like that the whole time? He sounds peeved. Adrian thought to himself. He got shivers down his spine when the man smiled. It didn't even look pleasant, it looked like the kind that would give somebody nightmares. All right. The teacher said, whoever comes in last place in all 8 tests will be judged to have no potential and will be punished with expulsion. HUH, all the students shouted. Aizawa, huh? Toshinori said with worry. He had gotten to the page where it showed class 1A and who their teacher was. It showed the teacher in bold letters. Name, Shota Aizawa. Erasure hero, eraser head. He'll be facing a lot of suffering from the start. Punished with expulsion. Izuku thought with worry. He wasn't scared of his teacher but was afraid of being kicked out for failing any of the tests. He looked down at one of his hands. Oh no, this is bad, in all 8 tests. I can only use one for all at either 100 or 0%. I can't control it yet. We're free to do what we want about the circumstances of our students. Aizawa said, pulling Izuku from his thoughts. He still had that creepy smile on his face. Welcome to UA's hero course. A huge test on the first day of school. Izuku started thinking again, what am I going to do? Last place will be expelled? Ochiko asked, but it's the first day of school. No, even if it wasn't the first day of school, this is too unfair. I agree with you on that one. Haru silently agreed. Natural disasters, Aizawa began no longer smiling, big accidents, and selfish villains. Calamites whose time or place can't be predicted. Japan is covered with unfairness. Heroes are the ones who reverse those situations. If you wanted to go talk with your friends at Mickey D's after school, too bad. For the next 3 years, UA will do all that it can to give you one hardship after another. Go beyond. Plus ultra. Overcome it with all you've got. Oh, I've also got one more thing to mention. Midoriya. Yes sir. Izuku replied. Besides having a quirk, you also have a stand, correct? Yes. That surprised all of the students. One of their own has both a quirk and a stand. This concerns only you. You'll be doing the tests twice. Once with your quirk and once with your stand. We need to know its strength, speed, range, defense, precision and potential. You'll be doing them alongside the other 2 stand users here. Thompson and Watanabe, I believe their names are. Yes, those are their names. Perfect. Alright, demonstration's over. The real thing starts now. All the students got determined looks on their faces. Test number 1, 50-meter dash. The first 2 at the start were Tenya Ida and a girl with long green hair that almost reached her buns and was tied in a ribbon shape and black eyes. She took the stance and almost moved like a frog. When the camera robot shouted, "Go," Tenya took off faster than she did. If anyone noticed his legs, his calves had what looked like exhaust valves, 6 on each leg. He reached the finish in 3.04 seconds while she passed it in 5.58 seconds. When she passed, she let out a small rib bit like a frog. Well, he's like a fish in water. Aizawa said, referring to Ida, it'll be worth seeing what others do. Next up was Ochiko and a boy who had a tail. Lighten up my clothes and shoes, she said to herself as she used her quirk. When signaled, she ran as fast as she could to the finish line. Her numbers were 7.15 seconds while the boys were 5.49 seconds. She wasn't upset though, seeing that her numbers were better than they were at junior high. Up next was the French-accented boy with some sort of belt around his belly. Next to him was a girl with pink hair and skin. The sclera of her eyes was black while her irises were a bright yellow. She also had horns on top of her head. The boy turned around so that his back was facing the finish line. Everyone, you're not being creative enough. He stated with pride, I'll show you what it's like. He then jumped and a laser shot out of the belt, propelling him towards the finish, while he exclaimed, to be allowed to use your quirk. Sadly, the laser stopped, and he fell to the ground. The girl beat him, and he finished with a time of 5.51 seconds. Turning towards the girl, smiling the whole way, he said, if I shoot for more than a second, I get a stomachache. Looking at the upper limit of your quirks and the room for growth in each result, Aizawa thought, it becomes clear what you can and can't do. Up next were Izuku and Katsuki. He watched them both as they took off. That will connect to the creativity need for you to survive. Explosive speed. Katsuki shouted while using explosions to propel himself and he took off like a rocket. Izuku was trying his best to keep up while not using one for all. Katsuki passed the finish line with a time of 4.13 seconds, while Izuku's time was 7.02 seconds. The green-haired stand user stopped running to take a breather. He was in deep thought as well. There are 7 more tests. He thought to himself, I'm sure everyone will use their quirks to produce some extraordinary results. On the other hand, I have this power that will break my body if I use it once. Luckily, I still have a chance since I have to do each one again with my stand, but it's still not enough. Control, even if I have the image in my head, when I have to actually use it. He then thought back to something that Toshinori told him. Dagoba Municipal Beach Park. 3 weeks ago. Toshinori and the boys got out of sight from the civilians. He was no longer in his all-might form and began to tell Izuku the trick to controlling one for all. The trick to controlling it is, he said before exclaiming the last part, feeling. Wow! That's all might for you. Izuku exclaimed before he was flicked in the head by Haru. Pay attention. He commanded. Sorry. You've already pulled out the 100%. Toshinori said while doing punching motions. It destroyed me, though. But now that you have, it'll be easy. You should have already grasped the feeling. What was it like? Izuku thought 5 seconds before coming up with his best explanation. It was like a bzzzt or a whoosh, I know. It's like an egg put into a microwave. Ha 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 ha. That's boring, but unique. If that's the image you have, then lower the wattage, or shorten the cook time. Anything's fine, just focus on the image of the egg not exploding. The image. Izuku thought. You have 3 weeks until school starts. Keep focusing on that image. It won't happen overnight, but I'm sure you'll be able to do it someday. Flashback end. Alright. Aizawa said, it's time to see what the stands can do. Izuku went back to the starting line, where Haru and Adrian were waiting for him. To their surprise, a long piece of red stained glass was placed next to the track. All of the students gathered near it to see why it was put there. Mr. Aizawa. A girl with black hair, tied into a ponytail called, what is this glass for? This is a special type of glass. Aizawa answered, it will allow us to see their stands. Sadly, we haven't figured out a way to hear them. This shocked the students. From what they learned, only another stand users can see other stands. Now they will be able to see their stands even though they weren't stand users themselves. Agile Emerald. Izuku shouted and his stand appeared right behind him. Violet Captor. Haru shouted, his stand appearing next to him. Golden Knight. Adrian shouted, his stand appearing in front of him. Whoa! The green-haired kid looks like an actual hero. The purple one looks a lot like Zoro. A knight in shining armor. How magnificent! The students were even more surprised though, when Izuku's stand vanished a bit leaving only his legs visible. They then aligned themselves with Izuku's legs. When the signal happened, all 3 boys raced to the finish in their own way. Haru was having Violet Captor pull him. Adrian was riding Golden Knight's back towards the finish. They were both passed by Izuku who was combining his own running with his stand speed. He crossed the finish line with a time of 2.01 seconds. Adrian got 3.05 while Haru achieved 3.16. The students were amazed at what the stands could do. There was no time for questions though. The next test was about to begin. Test number 2, Grip Strength. The image of the egg not exploding, Izuku thought to himself as he tried to activate one for all for this test. Sadly, the image that popped into his head was when his body was totally broken. That made him release his grip on the gauging device by mistake and he looked at the results. His number was 56.0 kilograms. The glass was already around him for when he would use his stand. Hearing excitement he looked to where it was coming from. He saw a tall multiple appendages boy with one of the grip devices. 540 kilograms. What are you, a gorilla? One of the boy's students asked, oh, an octopus. Octopuses are sexy. A short boy with grapey hair said. That sounded disgusting, what you just said, kid. Adrian replied, his stand gripping the device. His numbers were 160 kilograms. While Haru's were 149 kilograms. Izuku summoned Agile Emerald's right arm and aligned it with his. He pressed the reset button so that the numbers went back to 0. Tightening his grip, he was hoping to get better results. He was shocked when 5 seconds later, the machine started to smoke and cracked. Everyone, including Aizawa, came over to see what was wrong and if the numbers were there. What? 999.9 kilograms, the students shouted at seeing the numbers. Test number 3, standing long jump. The French laser boy cleared the whole box, Katsuki doing the same. Izuku almost made it hallway across the box. Using his stand's legs aligned with his, he nearly jumped out of the PE grounds. Adrian and Haru made it a quarter to how far Izuku landed. Test number 4, repeated side steps. Grape-haired boy used his quirk to make himself bounce continuously from side to side. The 3 stand users did great as well with Izuku still being at the top. Test number 5, ball throw. Achiko threw her ball, while activating her quirk on it. The next few seconds, everyone expected it to come down. When it didn't, Aizawa simply showed the results, which was the infinity symbol. Infinity, the students shouted. That's amazing. She got infinity, a boy with black streaks in his dirty blonde hair said. This is bad. Izuku thought, it's not something simple that I can just do right away. Everyone's leaving at least one amazing result. Seeing that it was his turn, he walked into the circle and grabbed the ball. All that's left is this, the long-distance run, sit-ups and the seated toe touch. It's now or never. At this rate, even with what I did with my stand, I'll be last. Come on, Izuku. Haru said under his breath after recovering from the strain. His ball throw score was 450.7 meters while Adrian's were 457.8. You can do it. It doesn't look good for Midoriya if he continues like this. Ida stated. Huh? Of course not. Katsuki replied, he's a quirkless small fry, you know. Shows what you know. Adrian retorted, he has a quirk. It just came in later than usual. You should have seen what he did at the entrance exam. Huh? It's about time, huh? Aizawa thought as he watched Izuku prepare to throw the ball. The green-haired stand user was thinking about what he was told, from earlier that day to when he was a boy. His mom, Izuku. You're really cool. Toshinori Yagi / All-Might, yes, I think you can become a hero. Jotaro Kujo, quirk or no quirk. You can be a hero. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Reeling his arm back, he activated One for All, and started to throw. I'll definitely become one. Unbeknownst to Izuku, but noticed by Haru, Aizawa activated his quirk which showed by his eyes glowing red. When the green-haired stand user threw the ball, he was shocked to feel that his quirk was cancelled. As a result, the ball didn't go very far. 46 meters. The robot shouted. Izuku looked down at his hands. I was definitely trying to use it just now. I erased your quirk. Aizawa said, drawing Izuku's attention. The stand user saw his teacher's hair standing up and his scarf floating around as if it were alive. The entrance exam was definitely not rational enough. Even a kid like you was accepted, and not because of your stand. You erased my quirk? Izuku asked but then noticed some yellow goggles around the teacher's neck and made a startling conclusion, those goggles, I see. You can erase other people's quirks with your quirk by just looking at them. The Erasure Hero, Eraser Head. Eraser? I've never heard of him. I've heard of him. He's an underground hero. Unknown to anyone, All Might was watching from behind the wall of the school. He doesn't like media attention because he says it hinders his work. The number one hero thought to himself, that's right, young Midoriya. He and I don't get along. From what I can tell, Aizawa said to Izuku, you can't control your quirk, can you? Do you intend to become incapacitated again and have someone save you? That's not my intention. Izuku didn't get to finish as part of the scarf wrapped around him and pulled him face to face with Aizawa. Whatever your intention, I'm saying that's what those around you will be forced to do. In the past, there was an oppressively passionate hero who saved over 1,000 people himself and became a legend. Even if you have the same reckless valor, you'll just be decked and turned into a useless doll after saving one person. Izuku Midoriya, with your power, you can't become a hero. Izuku was shocked at hearing that from his own teacher and his head hung low. Aizawa deactivated his quirk and released Izuku from his hold, his scarf returning to him and hair coming back down. I've returned your quirk. Aizawa told him, you have 2 turns for the ball. One with your quirk and the other with your stand. Hurry up and get it over with. The teacher then walked away. As he took 5 steps though. You don't get to decide. Izuku said in a low voice. The words couldn't be heard, but it got Aizawa's attention. He turned back around to face the student. What did you just say? He asked in a demanding tone. When Izuku looked up, he had the same stone-cold scowl he gave to Katsuki. The teacher took a step back in surprise. Not because he was scared of his student, but because the scowl looked terrifyingly familiar. The rest of the students, including Haru and Adrian, got shivers down their spines at seeing Izuku's face. You don't get to decide, Izuku repeated, on whether I can be a hero or not. You're not the first to tell me that I can't be a hero. I had to deal with that for most of my life. I was told I couldn't be a hero even though I was a stand user. It all came down to the fact that I was quirkless back then. Even someone who was once my friend turned against me. Adrian and Haru looked to Katsuki and were shocked to see him with a scared look on his face. Okay, that's not normal. Adrian whispered to Haru. I know. Haru replied and both boys turned back to Izuku. My sensei, the one who taught me how to use my stand, told me that quirk or no quirk, I can become a hero, and to not let anyone tell me otherwise. I've had to work harder than anyone to get into UA. I refuse to be booted out just because you think I have zero potential for not being able to control my quirk. Agile Emerald suddenly appeared and grabbed his own ball. Both Izuku and his stand got into pitching positions. I can become a hero, he said as he and his stand began to throw. Hey, is he serious? All Might said to himself. And I'll prove it. Izuku then began to throw the ball, his stand as well while shouting smash. Everyone watched with shock as the ball flew into the air, creating 3 sonic booms. When Izuku's ball landed, Aizawa was shocked to see that Izuku's score was 705.3, 1 decimal higher than Katsuki Bakugo's. The ball his stand threw didn't come back, so he also got the infinity symbol. Mr. Aizawa, Izuku said, getting the teacher's attention. He still had that look, with some pain, on his face and clenched his right fist. His forefinger was bruised but movable. I can still move. This kid. Aizawa said to himself and then, for a second, saw someone else instead of Izuku. Now I recognize that look. It belonged to Jotaro Kujo. He got over 700 meters and infinity, one of the students exclaimed. Finally, a hero-like record. Achiko cheered. His fingers swollen. Tenya stated, there was the entrance exam, too. He has a strange quirk. It's not very stylish, the French-accented student said. He then felt murderous intent behind him. Turning around, he saw Adrian giving him an evil look. Say that again. I dare you. He said with his stand at the ready. The student just kept silent. Katsuki, on the other hand, looked like he was about to have a heart attack from what he just saw. Izuku Midoriya, the quirkless stand user, now had a quirk. A very powerful one at that. What's with that power? He thought to himself, everyone's quirks manifest at the age of 4. This is unthinkable. But in reality. He then remembered something that Izuku said. I have my own dreams of becoming a hero, and no one, not even you, are going to get in my way. Katsuki's anger just kept going through the roof. His plans of being the only student from his school to go to UA were dashed to the ground when Izuku got accepted. He only got second place when Izuku got first. Now, he beat his score in the ball throw with his quirk. Explosions started to come out of his hands. What is the meaning to this? He screamed in his mind. He then charged at Izuku with intent on doing harm. Hey, he screamed, tell me what's going on, Deku, you dastard. Izuku got into a fighting position, activating his stand in the process. Before Agile Emerald could PND Katsuki into the ground, a familiar scarf restrained the explosive boy. His quirk wasn't working either. What the dash, he said, trying to move but failing. These clothes are strong. They're weapons for capture made of carbon fiber woven together with a metal wire made of special alloy. Aizawa explained with a scowl of his own, geez, don't keep making me use my quirk over and over. I have dry eye. Also, be happy that I got to you before his stand did. It's such a waste, since his quirk is so amazing. The students shouted in their minds. Aizawa then released his hold on Bakugou. We're wasting time. He said while walking away, whoever's next, get ready. Bakugou was shaking with anger at what just happened. Izuku started to walk past him but stopped when he was right next to him. His left shoulder almost making contact with Katsuki's left. That was strike 2. He said, getting the blonde's attention. Strike 1 was back at the school. I remember giving you a fair warning. Don't get a third strike or you will be sorry. Izuku then walked away towards the other students. Ochiko was the first one to meet up with him, surprising both Haru and Adrian. Is your finger all right? She asked. Oh, yeah. He replied with a smile on his face. Until a while ago, Katsuki thought in his mind, he was just a pebble on the side of the road. Flashback. 11 years ago. You're so lucky, Kaken. A 4-year-old Izuku said as he followed his friend into the woods to catch bugs. Katsuki had just developed his quirk and everyone loved it, including Izuku. Your quirk's so cool. I hope I get mine soon, too. No matter what quirk you get, Kaken replied looking back at Izuku, you'll never beat me. Flashback end. Katsuki was seething with rage while looking at Izuku. He was supposed to be the best. He was supposed to be number 1. No one was supposed to be able to challenge him. Sadly, for him, someone was and doing a very good job at it. Izuku had taken his spot as number 1 in the entrance exam. He got accepted into UA. He beat his score on the ball throw. He was going from a nobody to a somebody and it really ticked him off. A pebble, on the side of the road. All of the students did the rest of the tests. Once they were done, they gathered in the center of the field. Aizawa was standing in front of the group. Okay, I'll quickly tell you the results. He said to them, the total is simply the marks you got from each test. It's a waste of time to explain verbally, so I'll show you the results all at once. The person with the lowest total score will be expelled. Izuku thought to himself with his eyes closed, trying not to focus on the pain. The only result I had that was any good was in the ball throw. For the rest of the tests, I did terribly because of the pain. I'm sure my stand's feats wouldn't count either. Aizawa pressed a button and the results showed up. Izuku was hesitant at first to see his results, but eventually opened his eyes. Momo Yaoyorozu. Shototodoroki. Katsuki Bakugou. Tenya Ida. Fumikage Tokoyami. Mizo Shoji. Mashireo Ojiro. Ijiro Kirishima. Mina Ashido. Ochiko Uraraka. Koji Koda. Rikido Sato. Tsuyu Azui. Yuga Aoyama. Hanta Siro. Denki Kaminari. Kyoka Gyro. Toru Hagakure. Minoru Mineta. Izukumidoriya. Izuku looked down at his fist in both sadness and anger. He was angry at himself because he felt like a failure. He tried his best but still ended up in last place. All Might. Jotaro sensei. He said in his head, I'm sorry. I failed you. By the way, Aizawa said after turning off the results, I was lying about the expulsion. The whole class looked at him in surprise. It was a rational deception to draw out the upper limits of your quirks. What? Izuku, Achiko, and Tenya shouted. Of course, it was a lie. The ponytailed girl said, it should have been obvious if you just thought it through. Thanks for the advice, miss. Haru trailed off trying to get her name. Yayorozu. Momo Yayorozu. Wait. Did she say Yayorozu? Izuku screamed in his mind. That was a little nerve-wracking, huh? A student said. I'll take up the challenge any time. Katsuki was upset at what Aizawa had said. Seeing Izuku in last place put a smile on his face, but hearing that expulsion was a lie turned it into a frown. Seeing his dilemma, Adrian couldn't help but rub salt into the wound. Looks like you're stuck with him. He said in a teasing tone. Shut up, Goldilocks. Katsuki retorted, turning his head away. Oh, I almost forgot. Aizawa said and pressed another button on his phone. A screen popped up, divided into 3 sections. The furthest to the left showed Izuku's stand, the middle showed Adrian's and the right showed Haru's. Their stats appeared above their heads. Name, Agile Emerald. Stand user, Izukumidoriya. Strength, B. Speed, B. Range, B. Defense, B. Precision, B. Potential, B. Name, Golden Knight. Stand user, Adrian Thompson. Strength, C. Speed, C. Range, B. Defense, A. Precision, A. Potential, C. Name, Violet Captor. Stand user, Haru Ryo Watanabe. Strength, C. Speed, B. Range, A. Defense, C. Precision, C. Potential, D. Everyone was impressed to see the stats. Though Haru and Adrian's stands had great skills, Izuku's was the all-round type with everything equal in stats. What are the letters for? Grape Boy asked. It's how the stand stats are graded. Aizawa replied, A being the highest while E is the lowest. Oh. All the students said in their heads. Aizawa turned off the screen and pocketed his phone. With that, we're done here. He said while walking away, there are handouts with the curriculum and such in the classroom, so when you get back, look over them. Izuku was still in thought about the name when Aizawa approached him. Midoriya, he said while handing him a piece of paper, have the old lady fix you in the nurse's office. Tomorrow will be packed with even more rigorous tests. Prepare yourself and keep up that never give up attitude. When Izuku took the paper, the homeroom teacher walked away. Looks like I'm starting from the bottom all over again. Izuku thought to himself, I don't mind. Though. That just shows where I need to improve, and I'll be more than happy to do so. In the end, it will help me become a better hero. Aizawa, you liar. All Might said to the homeroom teacher as he rounded the corner. He stopped to look at the number 1 hero. All Might. He replied, so you were watching. Too much time on your hands. A rational deception, you said. April Fool's was last week. You punished a whole class of last year's first years with expulsion. You cut those you judged to be without potential without hesitation. For a man like that to take back his words, that must be because you also felt the potential of that kid, right? Also, you seem to be supporting him quite a bit. That made All Might recoil in shock. Is that how a teacher should be acting? He once again began to walk away. His potential was not zero, and the skill with his stand was over the top. That's all it was. I will always cut those without potential. There's nothing crueler than letting a dream end midway. He didn't want to admit that Izuku did surprise him with that look he gave him. Jotaro Kujo gave me that look many times that I made him mad. He thought to himself, is it possible that the boy was trained by Jotaro? So, you're being kind in your own way, huh, Aizawa? All Might said under his breath as he watched him leave, but we don't really get along after all. I'm so tired. Izuku said to himself as he left the school. He stopped when he felt a hand on his shoulder. Out of instinct, Agile Emerald grabbed the wrist and the neck of whoever was the owner. Izuku quickly turned around to see it was Ida, and it looked like he was having trouble breathing. Ida. Agile Emerald, return. Izuku commanded, and his stand returned to him and vanished. Ida coughed a bit before composing himself. I am guessing that your stand saw me as a threat since I didn't identify myself. He summarized, is your finger healed, by the way? Yeah, thanks to Recovery Girl. He answered, showing his bandaged finger. Flashback. Izuku screamed, being surprised to be kissed on the cheek by Recovery Girl. He was even more surprised to see his finger healed. Wow, it's healed. He said and then felt drowsy, but I suddenly feel very tired. My quirk can only STMLT a person's healing ability. She said while grabbing a small candy dispenser and offered a piece to Izuku, who accepted it. Healing requires stamina. If you keep getting major injuries, you'll use too much stamina and end up dying instead, so be careful. I'll end up dying instead. Flashback end. I can't just keep getting help from others. Izuku thought to himself, I have to hurry up and learn to control my power. I was really taken in by Mr. Aizawa. Tenya said, I even thought, this is the best of the best, and such. I didn't think a teacher would encourage us with a lie. I thought Ida was a bit stuck up, but he's just earnest. I didn't get to talk to Yaoyorozu yet, though. I need to ask her if. Hey. You two, both boys heard and looked to see Achiko running towards them, Haru and Adrian following close behind. Going to the station? Wait for me. Achiko. Haru. Adrian. Izuku exclaimed as the three students stopped in front of him and Tenya. You're the Infinity Girl. Tenya said. I'm Achiko Uraraka. She introduced herself, you're Tenya Ida, right? That is correct. Hey, Izuku. She said turning to the green-haired boy, I met your friends, Haru and Adrian. They're really great. I'm glad you were able to meet them. By the way, why did Bakugou call you Deku instead of your real name? Is that your middle name or something? No, it's just a nickname Bakugou uses to make fun of me since I was quirkless back then. An insult? Tenya asked. Yep. Haru said, it means useless. Though, having a stand says otherwise. Adrian added. It does. I'm sorry. Achiko apologized, but Deku sounds like the Japanese word for, you can do it, so I like it. Ah really? Izuku asked, I never thought of it that way. Well, if it does, then you can call me Deku. Midoriya. Tenya interjected, you're accepting it way too easily. Wasn't that an insult? Who asked you, Clark Kent? Adrian retorted, then turned to Izuku with a sly smile. Besides, from what I can see, Izuku is more accepting of the name if it's coming from a girl. Adrian. Izuku exclaimed while blushing like crazy. Adrian, Achiko said, turning to the blonde stand user, who is? Don't finish the question. Izuku, Tenya, and Haru shouted to Achiko, making her stop speaking. While walking to the station, they explained why they had stopped her. In the end they all had a good time before each of them went home. There are a lot of things that I can't do. Izuku thought to himself, I just have to train strong and do my best to improve. All Might, I have made some more friends. Jotaro-sensei, I wish you could be here to meet them as well. You don't have time to relax, young man. Toshinori thought to himself while looking at one of his old suits. The real thing starts tomorrow. The next day was when the classes began. In the morning the students had English with present mic. At lunch, they could buy gourmet food for reasonable prices. Cooked especially by the cook hero, lunch rush. The class that Izuku was especially excited for was Hero Basic Training. Once everyone took their seats, the teacher came in a weird way. Having both hands holding onto the outer part of the door while the rest of his body tilted in towards the room. Who was the teacher for this class? Well, I am, coming through the door like a normal person. All Might exclaimed, his partially torn cape flowing inward. All of the students were surprised to see the number one hero as a teacher. It's All Might. Denki Kaminari said excitedly. Wow, he really is a teacher. Ijiro Kirishima added. That's a costume from the Silver Age, isn't it? Tsuyu Azui commented. All Might marched to the desk and turned towards the class. Its style is so different, it's giving me goosebumps. Mashireo Ojiro exclaimed. I teach basic hero training. All Might explained, it's a subject where you train in different ways to learn the basics of being a hero. You'll take the most units of this subject. Let's get right into it. This is what we'll do today. He showed them a card written in bold, red letters, battle. Combat training. Combat. Katsuki said with an evil look. Training. Izuku finished with a determined look. And to go with that are these. A panel opened in the wall with numbers on them, costumes made based on your quirk registrations and requests sent in before school started. The class shouted in excitement at hearing what he said. My costume is ready. Izuku said excitedly. After you change, All Might finished, gather into ground beta. Yes sir. In the ground beta mock city, All Might waited for the students. A few minutes later they all emerged from the shadows in their costumes. They say the clothes make the man, young men and ladies. All Might stated, be fully aware, from now on, you are heroes. That's great, everyone. You all look cool. Now, shall we begin, you zygotes? Flashback. 3 weeks ago. I need to go to City Hall to get my quirk registration for the clothing allowance. Izuku said to himself while looking through some papers, but I'm already registered as none. Oh, what should I do? After some thinking Izuku decided to call All Might. Getting a hold of him, he told him about his dilemma. Quirk registration. Toshinori asked, oh, you can update that. Really? Izuku asked. Everyone is examined and registered all at once when they enter elementary school and junior high, right? But there are cases where people discover their quirks aren't what they thought they were. So, you're allowed to update it once or twice. They won't accept outrageous changes, but if you had none before, it's probably fine. And by probably, I mean I'm sure. I'm home. Inko called, startling Izuku and causing him to accidentally hang up on All Might. Oh, I hung up by accident. He said to himself while putting away his phone. I'll have to apologize later. Welcome home, he greeted his mom as she entered the apartment. Hey, Izuku, she said while reaching into her bag, congrats onto getting into UA. I might have jumped to conclusions, though. A trench coat? Izuku said, standing up to see it clearly. It was indeed a trench coat. It was a dark green with long sleeves. By the looks of the back, it looked like it would reach halfway past his calves. It's not as much as it is now, though. Inko explained, when you dozed off while studying, I happened to see your notebook. What? Inko then took on an ashamed look. The terrible thing I said kept bothering me. Even when you acquired a stand, I gave up back then. But you didn't give up. You kept chasing your dream, didn't you? You also had Jotaro to help you along the way. Izuku just smiled at his mom. I'm sorry, Izuku. Inko then smiled with tears in her eyes, I'll support you openly with everything I've got from now on. Izuku then took the trench coat. Looking at it, though, made him think of Jotaro. Surprising his mom, there were tears in his eyes. Izuku. What's wrong? She asked worriedly. I miss him. He replied in a sad tone. I miss him so much. He was surprised when he felt his mom hug him. I know. I miss him, too. Inko let go of Izuku to see him still looking at the trench coat. At first, I wanted to dress like he did to honor his memory, but now, I feel like I'd be doing the opposite. Don't say that. He didn't put you through all that training for you to just give up. In fact, I think he would be a bit happy to see someone else wanting to be like him. Not all the way, but enough to make sure he's never forgotten. Izuku looked at his mom then at the trench coat. His sensei never reprimanded him for what he wore. Only how he handled situations. He would probably tell him to continue with what he was doing, but not copy his color scheme. The stand user got a determined look on his face. Flashback end. These are my mom's feelings, he thought to himself as he ran to ground beta, and a piece of Jotaro sensei's teachings. What'll I wear if not this? Even if it's not the most convenient or state-of-the-art, it's fine. This is my costume, and I'll honor them both by wearing it. Oh, Deku. Ochiko said, noticing Izuku emerging from the shadows. Izuku was dressed in a light green t-shirt with black pants and red sneakers. On his elbows and knees were guards that kept them protected. On his hands were white gloves. On top of his head was a squared baseball hat, the back part was a bit cut out to let his hair flow. Around his waist was a red utility belt with supplies. Over his eyes were sunglasses to protect his eyes from either the sun or light attacks. Covering all of it was the trench coat his mom had bought him. Uraraka, he exclaimed seeing walk towards him. Seeing her costume, he started to blush like crazy. The sunglasses did little to hide it. He turned his head away to try and hide it. That looks cool, she commented, really down to earth. I should have written what I wanted, mine ended up being a skin-type bodysuit. It's embarrassing. She looks amazing. He exclaimed in his mind while still trying to hide his blush. The hero course is the best. Mineta stated, looking at how all the girls were dressed. He shivered though when he felt murderous intent. Looking behind himself, he saw Adrian looking at him with an evil glare. Keep staring, he said, and I'll make you wish you were back home. The grape-haired student nodded his head and walked to where the other male students were. Adrian then noticed Izuku and walked up to him. Izuku, you look like a boss, he stated. Thanks, Adrian. Izuku replied, looking at his friend's costume. Your costume looks awesome, as well. Adrian's costume was more like a knight's armor. All of it was the color gold with some white in it. Strapped to his waist was a 3-foot sword, sheathed in its scabbard. On his back was a shield that could protect his whole body if he knelt to the ground. A dragon's head was the insignia placed on his shield. Glad you like it. He said, the sword and shield are real. Got to have something to fall back on if my stand fails. Looks like you took precautions, just like me. Said the voice of Haru. Both boys turned to see him in an almost similar costume to Zoro. Instead of it being black, though, it was different shades of purple. Strapped on either side of his waist were a rapier and a WHP. Yours is cool as well, Haru. Izuku stated. I wasn't planning on anything fancy. He replied, just wanted to make sure I got some protection. What do you mean? Ochiko asked, don't you have your stand? He does but. Izuku answered, for some reason, when he uses his stand, it puts a strain on his body. The longer he uses it, the worse it becomes. Why does it happen? That's something I don't want to talk about. Haru said with a level of hurt. He then felt a hand on his shoulder and looked to see Izuku next to him. It's all right. Izuku said to him, you can tell us when you're ready. Thanks, Izuku. All Might heard the conversation and looked to see what was going on. He stopped mid-step when he saw Izuku's costume. For a moment, he thought his successor was a certain stand user. When he saw the color scheme, though, he realized his mistake. That didn't stop him from shaking in fear though. He looks almost like Kujo, he said in his mind, it's really scary. Composing himself he addressed the students. Now, it's time for combat training, he stated. Sir. Tenya said while raising his hand. Oh, that was Ida. Izuku thought to himself as he saw him in his costume, he looks cool. This is a battle center from the entrance exam, so will we be conducting urban battles again? No, All Might answered, we're going to move ahead 2 steps. Most of the time, fighting villains takes place outside, but if you look at the total numbers, atrocious villains appear indoors at a higher rate. Imprisonment, house arrest, backroom deals, in this society filled with heroes, truly intelligent villains hide in the shadows. For this class, you'll be split into villains and heroes and fight 2-on-2 indoor battles. Without basic training. So you asked. This is a real battle to understand those basics. However, the key this time is that there's no robot you can just beat up. How will wins and losses be determined? Momo asked. Can we beat them up anyway? Katsuki asked. Will the punishment be expulsion like with Mr. Aizawa? Ochiko added. How shall we be split up? Tenya also added. Isn't this cape crazy? Yuga Aoyama asked out of the blue. I'll answer all of your questions. All Might said while trying to keep his cool and pulled out a piece of paper, now listen here. A script? Really? Haru asked in his mind. The situation is that the villains have hidden a nuclear weapon somewhere in their hideout. The heroes are trying to dispose of that. The heroes need to catch the villains or get the nuclear weapon back in the allotted time. The villains need to protect the nuclear weapon for the whole time or catch the heroes. The situation sounds very American. Adrian thought to himself. Teams and opponents will be determined by drawing lots. They're being decided so haphazardly. Tenya interjected. Pros often have to create makeshift teams with heroes from other agencies, Izuku informed him, so maybe that's why. I see. The discernment to look ahead, please excuse my rudeness. It's fine. Let's do this quickly. The lots were drawn, and the teams formed. Team A, Izukumidoriya and Ochiko Uraraka. Team B, shototodoroki and Mizo Shoji. Team C, Minoru Mineta and Momo Yayorozu. Team D, Katsuki Bakugou and Tenya Ida. Team E, Mina Ashido and Yuga Aoyama. Team F, Rikido Sato and Koji Kuda. Team G, Denki Kaminari and Kyoka Jiro. Team H, Fumikage Tokoyami and Tsuyu Azui. Team I, Mashareo Ojiro and Toru Hagakure. Team J, Ijiro Kirishima and Hanta Siro. Team K, Haru Ryo Watanabe and Adrian Thompson. Wow, it must be fate. Ochiko exclaimed, excited to be on Izuku's team. I'm counting on you. Seriously? Izuku thought to himself while blushing, I have to speak properly, or else. The first teams to fight will be. All Might proclaimed, pulling Izuku out of his thoughts. The number 1 hero had one hand in a box labeled villain and the other in a box labeled hero. He then pulled out his hand, each with a single ball with a letter on it, signifying the teams, these guys. Team D versus Team A. Team A will be the heroes, and Team D will be the villains. Everyone else, head towards the monitor room. Yes sir, the rest of the students shouted and headed in the said direction. Oh great. Izuku thought annoyingly, I was hoping not to have to deal with Bakugou. Izuku looked to his left to see Katsuki glaring at him. He sent him his own glare, wasn't effective because of the sunglasses, but it got the message through. A challenge, letting the opponent know they are not going down without a fight. Villain team, All Might said, go in first and set up. In 5 minutes, the hero team will break in and the battle will start. Yes sir, the 4 students replied. As Katsuki and Tenya made their way into the building, All Might stood next to the entrance to give them some advice. Young Ida, young Bakugou, learn to think from the perspective of the villains. This is pretty close to a real battle. Go all out. Don't be afraid to get hurt. Yes sir. Tenya acknowledged. If things go too far, I will stop it. Yes sir. Katsuki wasn't paying attention to All Might. He just kept staring at Izuku. The said boy was holding something in his hand. It appeared to be some sort of locket. Feeling like he was being watched, he looked at Katsuki, surprising the blonde. His glasses were off, and he was glaring at him. Katsuki grinded his teeth in anger. Just you wait, Deku. He said in his mind, I'm going to put you in your place. Tenya and Katsuki had hidden the bomb in the top floor of the building. Now all they had to do was wait for the heroes. Tenya had decided to take off his helmet at the moment. Even if this is training, he said while walking up to the nuke, it pains me to become a villain. So, our job is to protect this. He knocked on it twice to see if it was really metal. It's papier-mâché. Hey! Katsuki called, getting Tenya's attention. He was facing the door so Tenya couldn't see his face. Deku has a quirk, right? You saw that extraordinary strength, didn't you? It appears to carry a lot of risks, though, however, you seem to be especially angry when it comes to Midoriya. Katsuki stopped listening after that. It was already annoying to him that Izuku obtained a stand. Now he got a quirk, as well. Did he dare trick me? He thought to himself, that blasted nerd. Outside, Ochiko and Izuku were trying to memorize the floor plan of the building, so that it would be easier to try and find the bomb. It's a lot of work to memorize the building's floor plan. She said to Izuku, still looking at the blueprints. But All Might is just the same as when he's on TV. Unlike Mr. Aizawa, it looks like there's no punishment, so we can relax and... She stopped mid-sentence when she looked at Izuku. In his hand was a locket on top of the blueprints he was reading. Getting a little closer, she saw that it was opened. Inside of it was a picture of 3 people. One she immediately recognized as a smiling Izuku, even though he looked to be only 7 years old. The hair was a dead giveaway. On his left was a woman with darker hair color than him. Judging by the similarities, Ochiko guessed that was his mom. Behind both of them, was a very tall man who wasn't smiling. She guessed that couldn't be his dad because there was no resemblance. What are you doing? Izuku asked. Ochiko looked up to see him without his sunglasses and he was blushing like crazy. I'm sorry, she exclaimed, I was just curious as to why the locket was important to you. Oh. Izuku said with a smile but in a sad way, as you probably guessed, the 2 people in front are me and my mom. The man in the back was my sensei, Jotaro Kujo. What? Jotaro Kujo? The stand user of Star Platinum? The one and only. He's the one who trained me, taught how to use my stand, and told me to never give up on my dreams. He didn't smile much, but just being around him made me feel special and safe. Where is he now? Wouldn't he want to be here to see you become a hero? That question made Izuku flinch. Closing the locket, he put it away inside of a hidden pocket in his trench coat. Ochiko saw that question must have disturbed Izuku in some way. She was about to apologize when All Might's voice sounded through the speakers. Now, let's start the indoor person-to-person combat training with Team A and Team D, he said. All Might and the rest of the students were in an observation room with 5 monitors. They were there so that the students and teacher could see what was happening inside the building. Okay, everyone, All Might addressed his students, you all should think as well. Young Midoriya. All Might thought to himself, here, you are no more than a single student. I'll grade you strictly, without playing favorites. He put a communicator in his ear so that he could hear their conversations and talk to them when necessary. We've infiltrated successfully, Ochiko said as she and Izuku got into the building without being noticed. There are a lot of blind spots, Izuku said, so let's be careful. Izuku led the way as he and Ochiko moved through the building. He carefully looked past every corner to make sure there were no surprises. During that whole time, he was formulating a plan. Bakugou will no doubt come for me. He thought to himself, it will be perfect because the only one guarding the weapon will be Ida. I won't use my stand, so it can be a fair fight, but that leaves me with another problem. I still can't control one for all, so I can't use it against anyone. If I use that on someone, it'll kill them. We just have to do it with the power I now have in Uraraka's zero gravity. I've got to use my head, those notes on indoor battles in tight spaces, as well as the martial arts training I got from. He was pulled from his thoughts when he heard movement. Looking towards a corner he saw the familiar figure of Katsuki Bakugou leaping towards them. Acting fast, Izuku grabbed Ochiko and got them both out of the way of Katsuki's explosion. They both landed on the ground a few feet away from him. Uraraka, are you all right? Izuku asked as he stood up, facing the smoke created from the explosion. Yeah, thanks. Ochiko replied as she sat up. Looking to Izuku, she saw that the left side of his glasses were broken, showing his left eye. He also had a small scratch on his cheek from landing on the ground. Deku? It's just a scratch. Izuku then removed the broken sunglasses from his face and pulled out what looked like a lower portion of a gas mask, and the mask from Izuku's beta costume. He then placed it on his face, preparing for what was coming next. Some of the smoke flew away to reveal Katsuki, ready to go another round. Come Deku, he taunted, don't dodge. I figured you come for me first. Izuku replied, it looks like we have some unfinished business. A surprise attack from the start. Mineta exclaimed. Bakugou, that's cheating. Kirishima stated while pounding his right fist into his left hand, a surprise attack isn't manly at all. Do you really think he cares? Haru asked. A surprise attack is a strategy, too. All Might added, they're in the middle of a real battle right now. Midori avoided it. Mina said. Trust me, he's just getting started. Adrian stated, Bakugou is in for a world of hurts. There goes Bakugou. Kaminari exclaimed seeing Katsuki charge at Izuku. I won't do so much damage that this fight gets stopped, Katsuki said as he charged, but I'm gonna get close. He threw his right fist towards Izuku for a punch. He was shocked to see Izuku catch it with both hands, holding it in place. Wow, he's like a martial arts MSTR. Ochiko said to herself. Izuku then pivoted himself to where Katsuki's right arm was over his right shoulder, but still in his grasp. What's with this guy? Katsuki thought to himself, did he read my moves? Izuku then threw Katsuki over his shoulder, making him hit the ground, strong. Some spit flew out of Katsuki's mouth from the force of the impact. Everyone in the observation room, except Haru and Adrian, were surprised at what they saw. Bakugou. Izuku addressed as the blonde sat up, you usually start with a big right swing. How much do you think I've been watching you? I wrote an analysis for all of the heroes I thought were amazing in my notebook. The notebook you tried to blow up. The blonde looked at Izuku, anger written all over his face. By the way, the nickname you gave me is useless, Deku. A friend told me that it has another meaning. Deku also means, you can do it. To put simply, your own insult backfired. Instead of insulting me, you've been complimenting me. Hearing that surprised Ochako. Izuku was talking about her. She didn't have time to contemplate on that though. They were in the middle of a fight. Katsuki had completely stood up and was facing Izuku, ready to go again. During the whole thing, Ochako noticed something was missing. Then she figured it out. Izuku was fighting, but he wasn't using his stand or his quirk. To sum it up, he was completely defenseless. Deku. Katsuki said in a low tone. He had also noticed Izuku was not using his stand and it ticked him off. There was some fear in Izuku's eyes. It made the blonde think back to when they were kids. Back to the day when Izuku first obtained his stand. When Izuku was defending a quirkless kid from him. If you keep going, he said with tears in his eyes, I'll never forgive you. Some of that fear was still there, but it was being pushed back. Small explosions started to ignite in Katsuki's hands. He planned to do harm to Izuku. He wasn't sure if it was going to be easier or harder because he wasn't using his quirk or his stand. Either way, he was very angry and couldn't care less. Here was the one person he least expected to get in his way, not using either one of his abilities, and he was still willing to face him. Even though you're scared. He said to the green-haired stand user, that's what I hate about you. Hey, bakugou. Tenya said through the communicator in his helmet, give me your status. What happened? Just shut up and defend. Katsuki growled back, I'm really angry right now. I'm not asking about how you feel. He was stunned when he got silence. Hey. He hung up, going off on his own like that. What is wrong with him? Geez. What was Bakugou saying? Kirishima asked, can't tell with just the cameras in a fixed position and no sound. He's talking to his partner over the small wireless radio. All Might explained, pointing to the one in his left ear as an example and held up something in his right hand. You can bring that plus the building's floor plan, and this capture tape. Once you wrap this around your opponent, it shows that you have captured them. The time limit is 15 minutes, Momo observed, and the heroes don't know where the nuclear weapon is located, correct? Yes. The heroes are clearly at a disadvantage here. Mina exclaimed. Heroes should be able to turn the tables on whatever predicament they're in. Besides, didn't Mr. Aizawa too? You know, here we go. All Might then pumped his fists in the air and so did the students. They all shouted, plus ultra. Mouse here, Bakugou is, Yuga said pointing to the monitor. All Might turned to look at it. Katsuki got into a ready position. Izuku seeing what he was planning turned to Ochako. Uraraka, go. Izuku said and Ochako ran the other way. Katsuki then propelled himself towards Izuku. Instead of swngng his fist though, he swung his left leg towards Izuku's face. The green-themed hero in training blocked the incoming attack. He then looked away so that Katsuki couldn't read his face. Looking away, he taunted, you must be sure of yourself. The blonde boy then noticed Izuku wrap something around his leg. He identified it as the capture tape. Hero Notebook number 10, page 18. Izuku recited in his head, I'm glad I got to see Eraserhead's moves in person. What's next? If it's Bakugou, he'll get impatient and swing with his right again. Katsuki did just as Izuku predicted. He swung with his right fist to stop him from using the capture tape. Izuku dodged at the right moment, once again surprising the blonde. I was right. That guy's amazing. Rikido stated at seeing Izuku dodge Bakugou. He's not even using his quirk or his stand, and he's fighting against the guy with one of the most powerful quirks in our class. Hanta added. He was always good at reacting quickly in a crisis. All Might thought to himself, he spent years writing his notes and internalizing them. That fanboy knowledge is now paying off, coupled with the training he got from Jotaro, as it propels him forward. He kicked first this time to keep me from reading his moves. Izuku thought to himself, he's being cautious now. Katsuki planned to propel himself again towards Izuku. He was shocked when he saw him run the other way. Come back here, Deku. Katsuki exclaimed as he gave chase. My plan is working. Izuku thought, his sole focus is on me. Now if one particular lesson from Jotaro-sensei can work its magic. Flashback. 9 years ago. Aura. Star Platinum shouted as he plowed Izuku's stand to the ground. Izuku felt the damage on his left cheek. Okay, Izuku. Jotaro said, I want you to tell me why you are having trouble getting a hit on me. I can't get a hit on you because you're stronger than me. Izuku replied while rubbing his cheek. Correct. Watching the news, I saw a group of heroes try to take down a villain that was much stronger than them and failed. Luckily All Might showed up, late as usual, to defeat the villain. Since he was stronger than him, it was a piece of cake. I don't understand what that has to do with the training for today. That's the topic of the lesson today. If you can't overpower them, you can defiantly outsmart them. From most the people I dealt with, they rely on brute strength alone. They don't consider the fact that they have weaknesses themselves, and it's the hero's job to find it. Something the ones on the news didn't do. Now, get up. You're going to continue to fight me until you find a flaw in my fighting style. Yes, sir. Flashback end. This part of the building is full of twists and turns. Izuku summarized, if I can make him mad by not letting find me, he'll get predictable and I can fight him on equal ground. Izuku then vanished behind one of the corners. After trying to find him past a few more corners, Katsuki started to lose his temper. Hey, he screamed, you tricked me, didn't you? Was it fun tricking me all this time? Izuku heard what he was saying as he ran. He thinks I was born with this quirk and never used it. His temper is causing him to not think straight. Huh. You've got a flashy quirk there, don't you? That as well as the annoying, invisible weapon you call a stand. Try and get me with it. 'Cause I'm better than you. I'm not using it for a reason. Izuku shouted back, hoping Katsuki would follow the sound of his voice. It worked as he heard his footsteps. He seems really angry. One of the students said, it's scary. I heard from young Midoriya, Watanabe, and Thompson that young Bakugou thinks well of himself, All Might thought as he watched Katsuki blow a door off its hinges, but this is too much. He'll find me sooner or later. Izuku analyzed as he stopped to catch his breath, Ida would have been a better choice, so it's obvious that they're not working together. This can end in two ways. The first is that Ochiko can locate the weapon and then I'll join her. The second is I keep Bakugou busy while she grabs the weapon. The problem is that I'm not using either my stand or quirk, so I'm at a small disadvantage. Small being the key word. I think it's time I give Bakugou both what he wanted and what he had coming to him. Katsuki walked slowly down the halls with a scowl on his face. He couldn't get the images of Izuku's confident and angry looks out of his head. I have my own dreams of becoming a hero, and no one, not even you, are going to get in my way. Deku also means, you can do it. He's just a pebble. Katsuki thought to himself in anger. He then remembered times when he and Izuku were kids. And, KB is for Kid Bakugou and TB is for Teen Bakugou. Flashback. 11 years ago. Wow, Kaken, a 4-year-old Izuku said as he watched a 4-year-old Katsuki bounce a ball with his knees and feet. This is easy, he stated as he continued to bounce it. Izuku tried to do it but failed. Izuku, you really can't do anything, can you? Fast forward. You can read the characters for Izuku as Deku, you know, he said, pointing to initials on a yellow bucket. Kaken, you can read, one of three odd boys asked excitedly. You can't. And Deku means someone who can't do anything. Really? The three boys looked to Izuku, knowing Katsuki was referring to him. Stop that. Izuku said with a pouty face. KB, why don't you know? Fast forward. A rock skipped on the water 7 times. Kaken, how many times did yours skip? One of the odds asked. 7. He said with pride. Wow. That's Kaken for you. What about you, Deku? Katsuki asked his friend. 0 times. Izuku answered with embarrassment. The 3 odds just laughed. KB, why can't you do it? Fast forward. Everyone, even the adults, watched in amazement as small explosions emitted from Katsuki's hands. He had manifested his quirk. Wow. Lucky. That's so cool. Wow, that's an amazing quirk, the adult male complimented Katsuki. It really is, the female adult added, it's a flashy quirk just right for a hero. Right, Katsuki? KB, oh, I see. I'm amazing. No one is amazing as I am. Fast forward. You're so lucky, Kaken. Izuku said as he followed his friend into the woods to catch bugs. Your quirk's so cool. I hope I get mine soon, too. No matter what quirk you get, Kaken replied looking back at Izuku, you'll never beat me. Flashback end. He's just a pebble. Katsuki said to himself as he continued to look for Izuku. Flashback. 11 years ago. Hey, did you hear? Some kids whispered as a surprised and depressed Izuku sat on the floor. Deku doesn't have a quirk. What? Really? Yeah, it's called being quirkless. That's lame. Too bad for him. He's so weird. Don't worry about it, Izuku. A female adult said to comfort Izuku. Katsuki was just looking at him with a smile. KB, you're the least amazing, Deku. Fast forward. Forward march, members of the Bakugou Hero Agency. Katsuki sang while creating explosions with his right hand, also leading the 3 odds and Izuku across a log. He suddenly slipped and fell into the water, 8 feet below. Kaken, the 3 odds shouted worriedly. Hey, are you okay? He's fine. Kaken's real strong. See? The point was made when Katsuki popped out of the hollow water and shook his head. TB, I was fine. Hurry up and get back up here. K, no problem. Katsuki called back with a smile. TB, nothing was wrong. Hearing footsteps in the water, he looked to see what it was. He got a dumbfounded look when he saw Izuku standing next to him, offering a helping hand with a worried look. Are you all right? He asked in a worried tone, can you stand? He held that dumbfounded look until it morphed into a look of anger. It would have been bad if you had hit your head. The anger intensified. TB, don't look at me with that face. Flashback end. It's a hero's duty to save everyone, even if it's a person that hates them. I gave you your space, and only fought back when you invaded mine. Stop it. Katsuki screamed in his mind as he continued to look for Izuku, stop looking at me like that as well. I'm better than him. Ochiko was on the 5th floor when she finally found the bomb. Hiding behind a pillar, she saw Tenya guarding it. Found it. She thought triumphantly, now I just have to tell Deku and hide until he gets here. Bakugou is a natural at being bad, Tenya said to himself, but that fits this training perfectly. Then I must also devote myself to being a villain. That's right. This is another trial to turn me into a man who will not bring shame to the Ida family. Become a villain. Be dyed with evil in order to become a hero. I am extremely evil. He's taking this so seriously. Achiko laughed to herself. Sadly, she alerted Ida to her presence in the room. Have you arrived, Uraraka? Tenya asked, surprising Achiko and making her come out of her hiding place. I knew that you would come here alone the instant Bakugou ran off by himself. Your quirk allows you to make the objects you touch float. That is why I put away all the things on this floor before you arrived. Now you cannot play your little tricks. You have blundered, hero. Ha 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 ha. He's starting to look. She said to herself, like a villain. Deku. Izuku heard in his earpiece as he waited for Bakugou. Pressing his hand to it, he answered Achiko. Uraraka. How's it going? He asked. Ida found me. Sorry. Right, not he slowly. Where are you? The middle of the 5th floor. Almost directly above. We probably don't have much time left either. If we run out of time, our opponents win. Achiko, keep Ida distracted. Once I've taken care of Bakugou, I'll come up and help. Okay. Izuku stood up. Patiently waiting for Katsuki to show up. He didn't have to wait long. Hearing a sound, he looked to see the said boy standing at the far end of the hall with a frown on his face. They're loaded. He said in a matter-of-fact tone while holding his right grenade gauntlet arm. That can't be good for me. He answered while taking a fighting stance. Why aren't you using your quirk or stand? Are you saying you can win even if you don't use them? Are you underestimating me, Deku? No. If I was underestimating you, my face would already be on the floor with you as the one who put it there. I have 2 reasons to why I'm not using my quirk or stand. Lay it out on me. I'm listening. First, I have no control over my quirk, yet. I'll break myself if I use it. Second, using my stand against someone who doesn't have one is just wrong. In the past, I only used it because I didn't have a quirk. Before I got one, I made a promise to my sensei. Oh. What was that promise? If I got a quirk, that was a big if, I would only use my stand as a last resort. That's a messed up promise. Maybe to you, but not to me. In this situation, I'm stuck. Because of those 2 reasons, I can't use my quirk or my stand. If you want me to use either, you'll have to force me to. That last part made Katsuki growl, but then smile evilly. All right. He said, I accept the challenge. By the way, with your stalking, you probably already know, but my quirk, explosion, lets me secrete nitroglycerin-like sweat from the sweat glands in the palm of my hand and make it explode. Izuku watched with caution as Katsuki pointed his right arm at him. He then pulled back the handle which revealed a firing pin. If they made this the way I asked, he continued while getting into a steady position, put his left forefinger inside of the firing pin, then these gauntlets will store the nitroglycerin inside them, and... Don't tell me that's... All Might didn't finish the thought, afraid of what the answer was. Young Bakugou, stop. Are you trying to kill him? If I don't hit him, Katsuki replied to All Might as he pulled the firing pin with a crazed face, he won't die. The explosion that came out of the gauntlet shook the whole building. Even the observation room felt the shockwaves. This is supposed to be a class. Kirishima exclaimed. Young man. All Might called worriedly, young Midoriya. So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for part 3. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and author Sentinel Prime on FANFICTIONnet. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.